well. I can still touch, I could play with my mouse and keyboard, I could type, I could play the piano, I could play the guitar pretty easily like this. Hello and welcome to the second episode of the second season of the virtual production vlog. Last episode, I set up this lovely Vicon motion capture system, and then I blew my own mind with how incredible it looks when you're doing performance capture with metahumans. So I'm re-recording this because I just got permission to talk about pricing. Like, the number one thing that people are interested in is, how much does this system cost? Do I have to sell X amount of organs or limbs or whatnot? So I got the official word from Vicon that I can give a ballpark price for how much this system costs so that you can start planning and saving your money so that you can do nice motion capture. Anyway, I have, again, a 10 camera Vero Vicon Indie MOCAP system. And this pricing is roughly $50,000 US. So this is ballpark figure, but I think that's enough for most people to get started. The reason that they don't do, or one of the main reasons they don't do like direct pricing on the website, is because it's really different depending on what you're trying to do, how big your space is, how fast are you trying to capture, how many people, what type of actions, are you like climbing up stairs? Like, there's different parameters, and they really need to custom fit the solution for you to make sure that you're like, you actually get the cameras you need and have the stuff that will actually work for you. You want to kind of consult with them before you buy it. If you go and buy like, hey, let's just buy these ones because that's what we saw, that might be the wrong system, and it's not the way to approach kind of like a bigger enterprise system, purchase, whatever, like a Vicon. So roughly, my system is about $50,000 US. We're allowed to say that, so everyone can kind of plan accordingly and see if that makes sense for you. And for the even more indie people, indie game developers, indie virtual production, indie VTubers, academics as well, you can get away with less cameras depending on what you're doing. So you want to talk to them about it, be like, hey, I'm like an indie game dev, or like I wanted to use this for VTubing, this is the space I'm in. There are configs that are smaller that may cost less, something like 6 cameras. That's something that I can kind of test out eventually here. I don't really want to take down any of my cameras because I'm very happy with the results right now. Why would I want to make it slightly perhaps worse? But you might be able to get away with smaller amounts of cameras. But I just wanted to put that out there because that is the number one question, because everyone looks at it and it's like, well, that looks incredible. How much is this costing? There's the official answer, and go forth with that. Let's continue the virtual production vlog. But what I want to do today for this vlog is kind of go through like the daily operation of this thing, like a day in the life of like a motion capture technician and performer, and kind of like a MOCAP kind of like content creator running this whole thing solo. I think a lot of people think that optical MOCAP, which is what this is called, this style with like lots of cameras looking at us, a lot of people have the impression that like it's too complicated to run by yourself, and it takes lots of people to do that. So generally, optical MOCAP volumes are really big. There's lots of cameras, there's lots of performers in them, and so in those cases, that is really complicated. It does require a lot of people. But what is probably less familiar to people are the much smaller MOCAP volumes, and what you're looking at here, this is pretty much the smallest it could be. I mean, you could go a little bit smaller and maybe focus on just desk and hands and stuff like that, but generally for a full body, like Vicon optical motion capture volume studio, this is as small as it gets. And I just want to show you that it is possible to run it with just one person. I guess this would be two, just one person. And I'll just show you like overall, what does this look like to turn the system on, calibrate things, what is the suit like when you put it on, etc., just to show how it all works. Right, so before I turn on the cameras and the software and whatnot, I just want to go over really quickly what optical MOCAP is in a very general sense. So, what we have here is a marker, and it's nothing special. This is not an active marker. There's no electronics in it. It's not flashing light. This is a squishy ball that has reflective tape on it. That's all it is. It's very lightweight. And, you know, if you watch the first vlog, you'll see that we have 10 cameras just all around us looking back, and they're looking for these little balls here. So these are IR cameras, I believe. So if you look at the Vicon camera, again from the first vlog, you'll see it up close, they're shooting at like something like 120 frames per second, like IR light into this area. And that IR light is going to reflect really, really strongly off of this so that these cameras just see really bright white dots. That's all they see. And if 3 cameras can see 1 dot, they can triangulate where they think it is in the 3D world, where its position, right? And so you take a bunch of these and you have a lot of cameras looking at them, and it can construct where those are in 3D space, and from that, it will do all sorts of things like say, hey, that's a box, like that over there, which you'll see what that kind of looks like. Or in the case of a human, performance capture, lots of these all over the human body. It's like, oh, that's a person. And so generally, very high level, again, that's what's happening with optical mocap. There's a lot more into it, but just that is a fundamental to understand, is that all of these cameras are looking for these dots. So we have to do some things to allow that to happen. Just wanted to go over that really quickly. Optical mocap means IR cameras are looking for dots in 3D space, basically. Okay, so to calibrate the system, we're going to use this, which is a lightsaber. It's a wand. It reminds me of like the double lightsaber from Kylo. Anyway, you have this wand here, and it has these, however many, 5? We're counting here early in the morning. We have these 5 LEDs, and these will basically show up to the cameras, the IR cameras up there, very similar to how these markers will show up. So to Vicon, this T formation is a known dimension, and when it sees it, it's like, I know what that is. That's the wand. This is wand V2 also. And so what we're going to do is, first thing in the morning, we're going to take this wand, we're going to go stand in the middle of our capture volume, and then we're going to start spinning this thing around. You do like figure 8s, and what you're literally doing is painting in 3D space. If you've ever done like a VR painting game, you're pretty much doing that, and the goal is to have every camera look at this position, move it around, and you're trying to like literally paint up the field of view in 3D space of each camera. And it just basically, it does all that. We just move this thing around and kind of paint in 3D space, just fill the whole volume with 3D light trails essentially. And when that's done, it's going to be calibrated. After you get the system calibrated, we now need to set the origin and also the orientation, like what's the front of this thing, right, of this volume. And the way we do that is we take this same wand and we put it on where you want the center of the stage to be. In Unreal Engine, that's where your kind of 0, 0, 0 will be, if you've done this kind of stuff before. And I place mine right on this little plus sign back here, and I face it this way because I'm always performing towards my computer, which is directly behind me, so I can see what's going on. I can see what's going on because I'm solo. Normally the computers would be the other way and someone else is looking at it, but for me, solo operator, I face my origin towards my computer screen so I can see what's happening. So once we've placed this on the ground, everything will be right side up and it'll look normal. And you can see all of the 3D cameras in Shogun. You can see all the little marks where they think they are in 3D space, and you are pretty much set to go. The last thing that we do, as I turn this off, is to make sure that the floor is flat, because this is not always level, especially on a carpet. What we do is we're going to take 4 of these markers and we're going to just put them on the floor, kind of in like any position, just as long as the cameras can see it. And then we select those in Shogun and we say set floor, and it's going to, take those and kind of average them out and say like, this is the floor of this volume, right? So just make sure that things are really flat, or at least they match your floor, because if you're in like a warehouse or something like that, those floors are not flat. There might be a little bit of a slant, and so this takes that into account. So this might be a long video, but I want to show you what it looks like to get suited up for a Vicon system, and just kind of show you where the markers are on it, because I feel like there's not a lot of content about that, and I just want to show people, what are we wearing when we're doing a Vicon. So one second. Okay, so these are the 2 main things here. It's a little bit dark, but basically, you're going to have like a shirt, and it's a separate shirt with like a zip up. I'm going to put it on, and then you have pants, and yeah, they're tight, but they're pretty comfortable. And if you're not comfortable wearing something that's skin tight, then join the club. But this is what you need to wear. So I'm gonna hop into these and kind of show you what they look like. Okay, so I don't know if you can tell or not, because I wear black all day anyway, but I'm wearing the pants now, like this. They've got little strappies, so they kind of stick like this, and they're pretty tight overall. We basically have markers, it's kind of dark in here, isn't it? But we basically have markers on both sides of the knee, one on my thigh, one on my like lower leg, and then 2 on my ankles. So there's a lot. We have a lot of tracking points. That's why this is so good. We have a lot of data coming in to solve our human skeleton. So we put this one on next. This is the shirt. I really do like that they're separate, the shirt and the pants, because like I'll kind of take them off to do work and then put them back on, so I don't have to wear the whole suit like the whole time. But this zips up like this. It's like a wetsuit. It's pretty tight. And then there's these little straps at the end here, and they just go like this, so that, you know, this stays nice and tight here. Similar to the knees, we have some trackers on this side of the elbow, this side, then 1 on the forearm, 1 on the upper arm, 3 on the chest here, kind of like the front of the shoulders here. Then this one, which these are just Velcroed on. This one goes in the middle. Then we have 1 in the middle chest, and then 1 here, 3 in the front like a belt, basically. So again, a lot of markers, but you saw how I put them on. I just leave them on the suit, and I only kind of move around these ones because the zipper's here, and it mostly works. You know, if you were like professional, you would do it every time, but it's been working out pretty fine for me, and I'm looking for something that's like kind of easy. On the back, I think I have 3 here. Spine is here, and then 3 on the shoulders. So that's it. You know, you kind of, if you're solo, which is probably rare, but if you're a solo Vicon user, you pretty much put the dots on you and you're good to go. And you can just put the suit back on, and all you have to move are these 3. And Vicon is really good, and if the markers are like slightly off, it'll still do a really good job. The next thing here are the shoes, which these are kind of fun. These are actually just like regular sneakers, and you get these foot covers. So it's basically just like a skin, a wrap that goes around whatever shoes you want to wear, which is nice. You get to be, you know, pick the shoes that you're comfortable with. And we're going to stick markers on the toe, on the sides of where like the toe bends, essentially, right? You can see like the kind of joint it would be making. And then the back, like that. And so I have this on 2 different shoes. These are like Adidas like slip-ons, because I don't want to have to tie my shoes. And I basically just, I'll do it back here. And I'm like 95% of the way there. Check out this haircut that's about to happen here, be unleashed into the world. The final thing is your head. I'm like bent over because I don't feel like moving my camera right now. You get this this cap here, right? So if you're not good at capture face data, which I pretty much always do, you can actually just wear just this, just like a, you know, a stretchy thing, and you put the markers on the head, on this directly. But the one you really need is at the top. But you're gonna see I'm gonna wear a special one for doing face mocap. Yes, now I'm wearing the full mocap look here. But there's one on the top of my head, and then the piece de resistance here is this. This is a standard Deviation HMC. So it's not a full helmet. I actually have a Technoprops one, which I'll probably make another video about now that I'm doing a lot of mocap content lately. And so this one you can go buy. I don't remember the price. I think it's like around 1,000 US, something like that. But you will try a lot of different things when it comes to mounting iPhones to your head for performance capture, and they will all lead to pain, and you will eventually come to this solution. So I'm just telling you right now, this is a really good one. I do have, if you can see it real close, I do have a Sanken Cause 11D. It's like a really nice lavalier mic. It is just kind of taped on here. And then the cable safety so that when I pull on the cord, which inevitably happens, it doesn't rustle this. Because like the enemy of a system like this would be like any touching or rubbing would be very, very loud. So this is my standard deviation setup for now. I am always looking for a new facial mocap. Helmets, cameras, rigs. There's definitely room to improve with the iPhone, but to get started for me, The iPhone's really easy, especially with MetaHumans, but I am on the hunt for something much better in the future. Okay, so I'm gonna actually kneel down. So this thing just kind of goes around your head like this. The back of it is cupping my head right now, and I crank it. And aren't we in quite the outfit at the moment? And so we have 2 markers in the front, 2 in the back. I had to Velcro them to this thing, and then 1 on the top. Okay, so one last part I forgot is the hands, and that's because there's a lot of different ways of approaching hands, and I'm still working through the different options that I have available to me, but I'll show you what I've been using lately that is purely Vicon. So let me, wait 1 second. So we basically have these gloves here, and I'll put them on. There are many different ways to approach hand mocap, like how many markers you use and what kind of fidelity you're gonna get. Oops, that's backwards. But this is the one I have now, and this is the most minimal, right? The least invasive, right? So we have the glove here. It's just Velcro and cloth, and this thing wraps around to kind of tighten it on, and that's it. That's all we're gonna wear here. So we have a marker on each side of the wrist, and then we have 2 markers on the knuckles, and this is the minimum thing you need to give to Vicon for it to know, like, hey, this is which way your hand is, right? So this is actually tracking your hand and your wrist, clearly not tracking any fingers. But this is like the most minimal way of doing it, and you'll just get flat hands like this, which then you would clean up in post, or if it's live, you would just give it in Unreal Engine like some sort of like kind of neutral pose that's not like this. But this is great because if you're doing like flips or something like active, you don't have to wear like full gloves, which can kind of get in the way, and you still have touch. So if you're like live streaming and VTubing and the hands really are not the focus, you could easily still play video games like this and have your actual fingers out, which is really nice, and have some sort of hand stuff. But this is like the most minimum hands you can have here. Anyway, so the first type of finger tracking we can do with Vicon is called 3-finger tracking. And one way to approach this is to take these 9mm trackers here. They're on like kind of rubber bands with holes in them. It works. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna basically put one on your thumb. Let's get this on here, kind of flop this through here. Like this. You can cut off the slack, especially if you like know your thumb size. I've just been leaving it for now. Then you're gonna take one and you're gonna put it on your ring finger, like this at the knuckle. So we got 2 now. Then we're gonna put one on our pinky, like this. Spin this gem around. And it doesn't take very long. So this is 3-finger tracking, and this is from the demos you've seen me do this week anyway. This allows you to have open hand and kind of a closed hand. It doesn't really make it to a fist, and you can kind of point, but it does 2 fingers, and it's basically it's more or less gonna average what your hand is doing. The thumb is fairly accurate, even with just this one single point, but it gives you just a little bit of hand difference here. It's like a little bit closed, open, a little bit of flex, not a ton, but enough to give it so that the hands aren't just like you know, flat paddle hands the whole time. So we'll put on the other ones. But there it is. There's like the very minimal 3-finger tracking. You still have touch. It's all very light. Like it's, you don't wear, like if you've ever worn MOCAP gloves, they're a little, you know, they're a little heavy, a little stretchy and tight. This is still pretty much like your hands. However, I'm still gonna switch to custom gloves, which will have to be for the next vlog. So this will give you some options for hands. You still would clean it up, or it would be like kind of like a loose live stream where like, okay, just a little bit of hand movement. And what they have, which I'll show later when I get my gloves, is that you can then do a 10-finger track where you basically put these on all the ends of the fingers and your thumbs, and then you have, I think, like one more mid finger. So you have a lot of markers on your hands, and then you get like full finger tracking. And if you've ever seen like the Vicon demo, they did American Sign Language. Like, it's really accurate. However, with these little strappies, not very good. So again, I bought gloves, and I'm gonna glue these onto the gloves. So that'll have to be the next demo. You can also, of course, use Manus gloves or Stretch Sense gloves or even Rococo gloves. I can even use index controllers, whatever you want. But you can also, which I wasn't aware of until I started talking with Vicon, you can get pretty good live hand data with just these amount of markers right here. This is pretty good for me. When I'm live streaming with this or just doing kind of like, you know, loose videos, I'm very happy with this very minimal setup like this. Okay, so I am suited up, and the next thing you typically do is hop into the volume, but what you're typically going to do is start by going into an A pose, and this pretty much teaches Shogun, like, okay, when this character or this person's performing, like, this is how big their forearm is, this is how big their whatever this thing is, this is how tall they are, right? It's basically taking on-body measurements for you by looking at these markers, and then it's going to recreate a skeleton that is actually like pretty much perfectly your size. And so you basically get it to do that by going like this, doing an A pose, and it'll register this point cloud of dots as an actual skeleton, and that skeleton, like I said, is the same size as you. After that, we need to teach the system how I move as a person. It's called the range of motion. So what you're typically going to do is start by going like this, then you do arm circles, you're going to bend your wrists, you're going to bend these here, you go up, spin like this, we're going to go down, and it's pretty much up to you, but you basically want to hit the extremes of all the different like angles your body's going to hit, and you're teaching, again, Vicon, through this recorded range of motion test here, how you move, right? Everyone moves differently, and if you're different heights, your legs are going to bend differently when you're walking and whatnot. And so this is basically custom tailoring the skeleton, the tracking skeleton, and ultimately the solving skeleton to say, this is how big the performer is, and this is how the performer moves. And it uses all that data when it's doing the final solve. So that's pretty much the whole process. You know, I come down here, turn on the system, calibrate it, we shake the wand out. It's a good workout, it's kind of fun. Get that calibrated. Gonna set the origin again, set the floor, put the suit on. Takes like a minute. It's pretty pleasant compared to other MOCAP suits where like they're a one piece. It's a little bit harder to get on actually. A little bit more restrictive too. Turn on the batteries for like my lavs, and that's it. You just jump right into the volume. Shogun picks up on you. It's like, yep, okay, you starts moving it around. And the second part that I didn't show is that I then stream that to Unreal Engine. So Vicon Shogun has a plugin for Unreal Engine through LiveLink, and you literally just have one node and an animation blueprint that says LiveLink from Shogun, and that's it. There's some retargeting that has to happen, which I haven't shown either. That's on the Shogun software side. It's actually like one of the secret powers of Shogun is how it does this very special retargeting. It's part of the reason that my metahuman feet stick to the ground so well, etc. But then that just becomes normal Unreal Engine virtual production stuff. As far as the Shogun side, it's really not that bad. Once it's all up and running, I just come down here, put on the suit, and it's not a lot of mental burden. I just start moving around, and I start thinking about like creatively what I want to get done. So as a solo creator, once it's set up, it's just about being creative and moving. And as you've seen, or in this video and hopefully the other one, when you move with the Vicon motion capture solve, it's so accurate that, like, for me, like 9 times out of 10, that's the final animation, right? If I'm gonna do this for game animations, which I'll show later because I am gonna use this stuff for like Cinetracer where it has to be a little bit more precise, I will record this to take recorder, and then I can film it from different angles or use that 3D, animation data in an actual game. But when I'm VTubing and making linear content, I can basically live stream this stuff, and it looked that good live. And that is a higher quality live full body tracking than most people have or show on the internet. And it's definitely good enough. I would say that it's many generations beyond good enough. I was very happy with my Steam VR VTuber. But with the metahumans, they really do well with a very realistic full body solve. And that is what Vicon provides for me. But that wraps it up for this video. Let me know in the comments if you want to see something specific, you have questions about it. If you have a question about it, I probably do too. And I will find it for you to the best of my ability and try to show it while I'm in this phase of like discovering optical mocap, working with metahumans. It's very exciting for me. Hopefully it is for you too. And yeah, any questions you have, I think we all probably have the same one. Okay, I'll see you in the next video.